Welcome to Raising Adults, the groundbreaking parenting podcast that starts with the end in mind.
We're your co-hosts, Dina Thayer
and Kira Dorian. We created future-focused parenting to take families from surviving to thriving.
So join us as we help you stop raising kids and start raising adults. Hello, future-focused parents. Welcome to a Raising Adults spin cycle, where we just come on for a briefer episode, either to answer a listener question or just share something important that's been on our minds and hearts, but doesn't need to be 30 minutes. And the second one is what we're doing today. We wanted to just chat a little bit about the way that we use the internet, the way that we use social media, and that idea of the fact that our kids are always watching that. And even if you have kids who aren't online yet themselves, they're watching the way you interact around difficult topics and probably at least hearing about maybe what you're seeing or interacting with online. So this is about in-person things and online things. They dovetail together. And we do have some eyes on us, don't we, Kira?
Yes, we do. And I think particularly right now. I think everything's so heated and people are so fired up. And, I'm a person who's fired up. It's okay to be fired up. But we do really have to be careful about what we're modeling for our kids because they are becoming adults one day, right? That's our entire platform. And so what kind of adults do we want to see walking through the world with their fired up feelings and opinions? How do we want to show our kids how to have those big feelings and move through the world appropriately with other people? And I think particularly, this episode, the spin cycle is coming out the Thursday before the inauguration. There's going to be big feelings on all sides. And we really wanted to just take a moment to talk about the fact that everybody's watching. All those little eyes are on you. And so we do really need to give some thought to what we're modeling right now.
For sure. And I think this is leaking into one of the things I wanted to share, but I think this becomes certainly more to the forefront, maybe during social or political unrest. But I think it's an important thing like year round. And it's easy to think, at a heightened time, I really have to pay attention to that. It's like, well, actually, we have to pay attention to that all the time. And not only like there's two pieces of this in a way. It's like deciding what even deserves to be said and then thinking about how and what platform and, all those other things. Because if you get the first one wrong, the second one will certainly be a hot mess. And too often we don't think through, does this even need to be shared? I mean, sometimes the thoughts that are in our head never need to make their way out of our mouths.
It's so true. And I think something you brought up that I'm gonna drop right now and let you expand upon, but it really speaks to that is if you wouldn't say it in public, if you wouldn't say it to the person, perhaps it should not be said on the interweb. Like just because we're hiding behind a phone or a computer doesn't mean that needs to come out of your mouth in that way. Think about how you would actually say that if you were present with that person and you could see them and see their humanness and their personhood, and like remember that you're talking to an actual person who has feelings and is invested and the stakes are high for them too.
That's right. I think we kind of I say we a lot, and I don't mean that I'm doing this, but I think I say we because I want to also be cautious of the things that I put up a caution flag about for our listeners. And I do think sometimes people can feel kind of the safety of being behind a screen, for lack of a better word. They feel shielded or protected. The backlash will only be in the typed word. And honestly, that goes to that first choice of whether it needs to happen. Because if you would only do it behind your keyboard, but you would not do it in person, maybe you shouldn't be doing it at all. And I think that can get overlooked.
Yeah. Well, and especially when it comes to our kids, as they engage in social media beyond this week, right? As they, grow into teenhood and start thinking about texting and all these different ways that they communicate that isn't in person, that's an important thing to teach them. Really important. If you would not say that to that person's face, should you be saying it?
Well, and I think that comes in other arenas too. Just if you think about sexting, if you think about cyberbullying, are kids bolder and braver with the way they flirt online than they would be in person? Yeah, probably. Are they also, unfortunately, bolder and braver about unkind comments and berating people behind the screen than they would be in person? Yeah, probably. And so, this skill that we can impart while they're younger through our modeling will really matter, because if they learn, wow, if that wouldn't be said in person, it doesn't get said at all just because it's on a screen, that is going to be a huge life lesson throughout. And unfortunately, I think we've both seen evidence in recent months and weeks of adults who maybe haven't learned this lesson. And it's really unfortunate, because instead of just having an opinion, like you said at the top, which is A-okay, it becomes kind of spewing hate and divisiveness. And that's not healthy for anyone. And it's not what we want our kids to be learning.
Yeah. And I think it's important, like, don't be confused as we talk about this, listeners, that that doesn't mean that you aren't allowed to be fired up about your opinion and be
Totally.
vocal about your opinion. I mean, I think that's one of the most common things that's being talked about right now is silence is violence. It's okay to talk about it. It's okay to have feelings about it. It's okay to be bold and loud about it. But that does not give us permission, just like we would never say to our kids, yes, stand up for what you believe in and go ahead and be a jerk while you're doing it. We would never okay our children to behave that way. We cannot model that for them either.
And that's the difference too. Like, being fired up about your own opinion is still different than berating someone of a different opinion.
It's that dialogue we talk about having all the time. How can we dialogue? And I understand a lot of people are like, I'm done dialoguing. I don't want to dialogue anymore. And I also get that. And that's okay. You can actually not dialogue. But again, just like for our children, we would say, it's okay. If you need to step back, if you need to not be having that conversation right now, that's okay. We would never say, and it's okay to call your friend names and swear at them and, just act in this nasty way toward them. We would never okay that of our children. So we cannot okay it of ourselves.
Yeah, we got to give ourselves the same regulations that we would want to impart to our children. And it's too bad, because sometimes that doesn't happen. And we just know that you, as our listeners, are a band of future focused parents. You're thinking about these things and how they impact. And so this is more of a, we're all in this together. It's a reminder. It's not meant to be an admonishment. It's more, hey, there are eyes on you all the time. We've had a politically and socially charged year, and we're moving into a fairly politically and socially charged week. So a great time to be thinking about that, how you interact around these topics, live, on the phone, verbally with people, and of course on the internet. And if you have kids who are older and are already using those forms of media too, I mean, use this opportunity, talk about these things. It's incredibly powerful. I know I've been so grateful for the chats I've had with Sienna and Mark, as they even come across things and say, wow, I saw this post and it bothered me, and what do you think about that? And or things that make them uncomfortable, but maybe it's an okay uncomfortable, because guess what, there's that too.
Right,
You know,
right.
sometimes someone being strong in their opinion will challenge some other people, and that, I think we don't want to shy away from the challenge. We just want to keep it away from being unkind,
Exactly.
and
Because
that's
no one's
tricky.
going to feel safe to feel challenged if we're being nasty to each other.
Right, right. It
Yeah.
removes the safety. That's exactly it.
So we hope you guys will be thinking about that this week, and next week as things keep churning in our country
Yeah.
and in the world. And I'm sure we have a future episode on some of the things we touched on today, but we did want to just take a moment to come on and remind you that little eyes are watching.
Yeah, it is so important. So thank you for tuning into this little quick spin cycle. And we hope you'll give it some thought and maybe some conversation in your home. And we'll be back with you on Monday with a fresh episode. Thanks for listening.